Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight with Mayor Jeff Mims. And today, I have a special guest with me. Of course, you always hear me say that because all my guests are special. Dr. Leroy Long III. All right, so long list of longs, doing all kinds of great things as far as this city is concerned. I know I've had a couple of them who work with me in the Jack and Jill Botillion military. Okay, so Anthony Long. Yeah. What's he really to you?
That's
Cousin?
my uncle.
That's your uncle. Yeah. Okay, so he's been doing a lot of great things as far as the city of Dayton is concerned as well. Yeah, super guy. Yeah, super guy. I appreciate that. So let's let you talk first of all. What do you do? I know you work at Sinclair. You're one of those high-powered positions over at Sinclair, making great things happen in the way of technology and industrial work as well with our young people. Talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, so I've been there almost 3 years now.
Okay.
I'm currently an associate professor and chair of the Mechanical Engineering Technology Department at Sinclair. Some people say when you're in a leadership position, you're a change maker, influencer. I think it's just a higher level of service, to be honest.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity to make an impact with a lot of students. You see them inside and outside the classroom. I advise our NSBE chapter, National Society of Black Engineers, so that's really helpful and impactful. And then when you're in the community, a lot of people just see the logo and they do recognize things. So we even joke internally. We try not to wear it to so many events we're outside of work because it is well-known and well-respected institution. So
okay. Yeah. All right. That's great. So I'm going to ask you, how did you get here? Now, I know from my personal experience in terms of my wife talking about having you in school at Fairview High School, not Fairview, middle school, way back in the days, the kids say. I'm not sure how many years ago. But I know that she had you in her class at that time, and there was some way you guys began to make some connection on Facebook. Talk about that. And I do know that we had some connection with me. She said, well, because he wants to come back to Dayton, Ohio. He's down there in Florida. He's in charge of this department. And he really wants to come back and give to Dayton. She said, will you talk to him? I said, well, yeah, I talked to him. Okay, so I know we came from that perspective in terms of talking to you about that. But talk about that experience. What caused you to sort of reach out to want to come back to Dayton?
Yeah, so, I think Florida was like a dream job when I first took it. So I went to Wright State University for my undergrad and then Ohio State for grad school. And I was one of the quote-unquote lucky individuals where right when I was coming out, actually the day I defended my dissertation, I got an offer from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Daytona Beach, Florida. So, yeah, talked to my wife, who was my fiance at the time. She was open to going down there. We relocated, and I started off in a tenure track role, which a lot of faculty members don't get those straight out of graduate school. Okay. So that was a blessing. We had a great time at first down there in terms of like the weather and what the institution provided. But I think because we're both family oriented, especially when COVID hit, we just thought it was too far. Like we couldn't travel back as frequently as we were doing. And then I thought in terms of community service, although I was doing a lot in Florida, particularly in Orlando, less so in Daytona Beach area because we lived in Orlando, I just didn't think I had the same reach there that I could have here in my hometown. Right. I thought the students resonated with me because I looked young, I had a good background and stuff that connected, but I was like, what would it be like if I talked to kids who went to my school, lived in my neighborhood, and really could see themselves doing things? And I knew that there was a need here in Dayton. So it's kind of like wanting to be closer to family and then wanting to have greater reach. And then in terms of the institution, so my institution in Florida was more like a UD, University of Dayton, where it was private, expensive. So I'm not trying to say some people shouldn't go to those institutions, but it was harder for me to see it as a place where many individuals could access that space. Okay. So I know I was even mentoring a student from my church, and he wanted to go there, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, I can't really advocate for someone to come out of school hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But here at Sinclair, we're open access, very affordable, if not free, for most individuals. So all of that was interesting to me. And part of why I reached out to like your wife, Miss Mims, Miss Porter, and others, because Fairview Middle School was such an impactful point in my life. So I started at Belhaven, but then by the time I went to Fairview, that's when we started getting career exposure. So I was a part of Wright Step, which was Wright State's Science, Technology, Engineering Preparatory Program. And so that point in life is where it was like, oh, I could see myself doing this. And ironically, my mother has a computer science background, so you would think that I would have figured that out much sooner. So I think having her gave me access to like computers, it gave me confidence in math and science. It showed me it was possible. But then this program really explained a lot of things behind the scenes, because I don't know how your family is, but in mine, we don't talk a lot about what we do professionally.
Okay.
You know, so Right Step really opened my eyes. And then your wife had me in a speech contest, Martin Luther King speech contest. So I really started to come out of my shell a little bit in terms of who I could be in terms of public speaking. I didn't know at that time, but even being an educator.
So the exposure.
Yeah, Fairview really kind of set me up for a lot of future success.
Yeah. So it's interesting because my son was at Belhaven, and he also went to Fairview Middle, before he went to Meadowdale and involved. He also was in the Right Step program. And so it's sort of funny looking at some of the kind of things that he experienced during that time. And he realized that he did not want to be a doctor. Okay, he realized he did not want to be in some other areas, and he really did not focus on finance, which he wound up graduating with at Howard University with finance, and then his MBA from Harvard University in those bases. But I don't know where he got that from. Okay, somewhere along the line, some teacher somewhere got something in his head about not industrial technology, but about finance, bookkeeping, management in terms of those spaces. That he did have part of what I was doing in his desire to major in labor relations, because I was heavily involved in doing that as president of the teachers union and working in government relations when I was with Dayton Public Schools. So that was part of his major desire. I think it was bookkeeping, marketing, labor relations, soccer, and I'm not sure what else, but anyway. So he wound up, dealing with all that stuff and then focusing on finance his last 2 years at Howard University. So a bunch of fun career. So Middledale, DPS, clearly, and Fairview, a lot of great young people have come out of Dayton. And so your desire to sort of come back and make those contributions, I think you landed at a great space at Sinclair.
Thank you.
Yeah, a great space. I know Dr. Johnson has consistently found ways of improving some of the school opportunities for more and more of the young people who live in the city of Dayton. I know there's a lot of work that he's invested in, also supporting the Black Males, the Black Male Initiative that you have at Sinclair as well. I know Dr. Welch is there doing some great work in those spaces. We also have, of course, Dr. Carter, who's done a lot of great work in those spaces as well. It's just a continuum of Sinclair being a great provider for quality of life opportunities for more and more of the citizens that we have going through that space of Dayton. So again, your trip here, you talked about that for a bit. You talked about your background. The area in terms of industrial technology, the area of not electrical engineering, but mechanical engineering, is critical, more so than a lot of people realize. But what caused you to focus in on that? And how do you see getting more and more of our young people interested in those programs? Because as we talk and look and visit, there are not as many young people, especially young men, even more so, especially young ladies, who are African American, who are engaged in those areas.
So I do think having mentorship or visible role models makes a difference. So like I said, I had my mother at home who I knew had succeeded in STEM. It wasn't the same area in which I ended up going into, but because of her having a background in computer science, and when Right Step happened, we were meeting people from the Air Force Base,
right?
The older students at Wright State who were participating. So like you saw near peers, you saw grown adults. So I had that one example, but then I had all these other examples that I could be like them. Even my teacher. So I know at the time there were many more, like, seemingly, I could be wrong, but when I visited the schools, it seemed like there were more Black women and men who were in the classroom.
Right.
So even if I had great white teachers, which I did at the time, I saw someone who looked just like me. I specifically had a male math and science teacher at Fairview, and then a black male math and science teacher at Fairview, and then a Black male continued on and taught math at my high school. So there wasn't anything that I had to try to figure out or overcome in terms of identity development. And then when I was thinking of majors, I did lean towards computer engineering since my mother had a computer science background. I mentioned that confidence. I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Maybe I should try computer. But to be honest with you, coding wasn't my thing.
Okay.
Some people, really enjoy it, just debugging, typing, writing codes. I mean, that's really how our phones and many devices work. But that wasn't for me. And ironically, I still had to use it in mechanical. But when I started looking through the brochure, because I was pretty confident I want to stay in engineering, do the Right Step, I saw that in mechanical, you could like design things. You could do more with your hands in terms of assembly. We had labs for most of our actual classes, so that was really helpful too. So then when I thought, what could I do? Like, oh, I can draw by hand. You know, I can actually use that in mechanical. So something I'm naturally good at and people have cultivated. Like my family, you mentioned my uncle, like his mother and all the Longs, and on my mother's side, when they saw me doing well, they actually rewarded me. So whether it was like drawing, playing sports, or succeeding in the classroom, they gave me an incentive. And then both sides of the family really competitive.
Okay.
So all of that kind of pushed me. And I'm thinking, I can do this, I can do it. Where should I succeed? To the point that even my freshman year at Wright State, I took an intro business class, and I was one of, not the top student in that class. They scheduled a meeting with me and the dean.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm a department chair. The dean is a level above me. So just imagine being a student your first year in college, and 2 levels above your professor, they're scheduling a meeting. I'm like, oh, this is a big deal. But I was so determined. I was so determined, maybe naively, to become an engineer, that I'm like, no, I'm in the right place.
Okay.
This is great that you think I can do this, but if anything, I'll just use my business acumen in engineering. You know, so I think once I started taking the classes, and I did have some early struggles with like calculus and physics, just due to not having taken them at a high enough level in DPS. And I don't want to say it to knock my teachers. They were great, like Miss Linda Snellings and Mr. Lindemood and Miss Porter, even in middle school, and so many others.
Right.
But I just wasn't given access. So like the CCP dual enrollment tech prep structure that existed, I was not exposed to that, which could have propelled me higher in math and science preparation. But I think because I could draw, I had dealt with Legos, puzzles, like small scale things in my hands. I played sports. When we got into the lab environments, I was comfortable on the computer because my mom had a computer at home. I was comfortable with my hands.
Okay.
I wouldn't call myself like, you know, the gadget person who can just do everything, but I had enough of a balance that in engineering I saw that I could succeed there. And then we were hearing like you could make this amount of money. There was this great need. I knew that the automotive industry was a part of engineering and mechanical specifically. At that time, I loved cars even more than now. So all of that was kind of motivating. The base was also huge here. I would say bigger then than it even is now, in terms of me knowing like that was a way to the middle class as African American, that it was stable. It seemed kind of cool that we were like the first city, you know, in flight. So all of that was like kind of molding me into this person who thought they could become an engineer.
Yeah. I know. So you were talking about calculus, et cetera. You know, I just have this habit of sitting up with my children and helping them with some of their homework. You know, and doing things in that space, if you will. I know when my son was taking calculus, I said, man, all I can do with you is just sit up with you. Because you start asking me for some answers in this space, I'm out there. You know, I'll sit up and keep you company, okay, but moving in that direction. But, you know, this is really interesting to hear you talk about this. And one of the reasons why I do this show is so that we have a lot of individuals, both young and old, who are able to look at some of these shows to see so many of the kinds of things that are happening in Dayton, and to make the connections that we try to make again with our young people, and seeing themselves in you, for example, seeing and hearing you talk about your experience in terms of sports and the reinforcement that you got from friends and family about the different areas that you were dealing with. If I would ask, what sports were you involved in?
So elementary school, I did basketball, baseball. I did track 1 year, and then I bowled. Okay. And then middle school, I just continued with baseball and bowling. And then in high school, all I did was bowling.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, looking at that, because, see, I used to have stumbled upon this idea about watching and listening somewhere along the line about paying my kids for their allowance based upon their grades and their extracurricular activities. So it's like $5 for an A, you know, $3 for a B, nothing for a C, not beside the head for a D, okay, or anything worse than that. But also the activities that we're involved in. For every extracurricular activity, it was another another $5, if you will. And so I didn't realize, even at the time that I was doing that, about setting such a good pattern, because it allowed me to adjust the allowance on something instead of just giving you, you know, $20 every week for something, whatever, but just giving you the money based upon how you have earned that, and the connection between work and school and work and society, and also the sports activities. That not because the sports activities were just fun. I know I was talking with that with my senior policy aide earlier today, because all the work experiences that you get in sports is clearly, kids sometimes may think they're just having fun, okay, which is good. So if we can make you think you're just having fun by coming to school and doing whatever you need to do, but in the meantime, you're developing work skills. And every one of those activities that you're involved in is like another key.
Yeah.
And every key you get opens up a door. And they also create another form of insulation against some of the crazy stuff that happens that you don't have control over. So now you got your skill set that you're continuously moving in the right direction. You talked about Right Pat. And I do want to go back to talk about Right Pat as well, because as we move more and more into more aviation-related jobs here in the city of Dayton, about 4 years ago, we started with a lot with Sierra Nevada, in terms of doing the aviation-related programs there in terms of aircraft mechanics right out, again, at our airport. We're in the process now of the third large hangar, each hangar that they have, which is like a big garage for those people who don't know, okay, where they do maintenance on aircraft. And I think they have about 4 to 5, maybe even 6 planes that they can have within each hangar that they're working on. And then we're looking at, again, the work that we did in building, in conjunction with Sinclair, City of Dayton, built another hangar, and that we use that as a large classroom, again, right out at the Dayton airport, to show individuals how they can identify and work and do parts of rebuilding a plane or taking a plane apart or doing the mechanics on a plane. That's another classroom, again, that we have right there at the airport. And then, of course, the biggie that we got right now, just last year, $500 million invested in the whole situation with Joby Aviation, building air taxis. And that's major. That's more than major. It's 2,000 jobs for the citizens who are living in Dayton. And then what I have is this dream of Dayton, Dayton Public Schools, schools around us, be it again, Sinclair, be it CJ, Mount Street Academy, Trotwood, Jefferson, CJ, if I didn't mention CJ, but Kettering, whatever, to have those young people engaged in taking those jobs. There are many of those jobs at the beginning level, $70,000 and $80,000 jobs, and many of them do not require a college education. And so I see Dayton becoming a middle-class city, as you mentioned that earlier, in terms of some of the quality of life options that they're able to pay for, where they engage in programs like that. So again, I'm just as tickled as I can be in terms of being able to make sure some of those kind of things happen for Dayton. But Right Pat has doubled, if you will, in terms of the jobs that they have in those spaces, and the stronger connections we make in terms of working with them, which some of them are working even right now at the. I think it's sometimes down to Arcade. We have some spaces down to Arcade that have a very strong connection with Right Pat, and there are even more things planned, if you will, with the on Main project that we have. So a lot of technology in terms of that space. But your work, again, I know last week we had a program over at, you guys had a program over at the at Sinclair, more of a STEM focus, more on a lot of engineering programs that you have in that space that was directly related to Dayton Public Schools students that we have here in the city. Talk about some of the progress and some of the kinds of things that you're exposing young people to in that program.
Yeah, so, I've been trying to advocate for DPS since I've been back here. I was hoping to bring back the Right Step Summer Program, and hopefully that's still a possibility. But we noticed even with campus visits that Dayton Public Schools wasn't always included. Sometimes it was just because it was like a RSVP first type of event structure. So if you have more administrative staff positions in your high school, then yeah, you're going to get registered for it. And if you're a school in which, people are in the classroom or in meetings and away, they may not see that invitation until later in the day. So Mr. Patrick Piper, who's over electronics and robotics, and myself had an idea, like, why can't we have this type of event just for DPS, especially if they have 6 or 7 high schools, they need their own event. And so I don't remember who approved it, if it was at the dean level, provost, or someone else at the VP level, but they ended up adding a day just for Dayton Public Schools. And so basically they toured and did some hands-on activities with all of the members of our STEM division, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
And mine specifically is mechanical engineering. So we typically do something with like 3D printing or additive manufacturing. And again, I think just even seeing and meeting someone like myself is impactful. Seeing facilities, because I got to go to Wright State, so seeing a college campus while you're still, in high school or middle school can open up doors. People can talk to you about something, but it's different when they actually expose you to it. And I just benefited from my childhood, in which I mentioned the stability I had with family, the affluence I had, because not everyone has a family member who can reward them, with good grades or sports accomplishments, things of that sort, and even the price of playing sports or buying an arts kit. Like, so I was just, very blessed to be able to do that. So even like the book I wrote, I was trying to do that for my niece, like, 'cause she didn't realize how good she was artistically.
Okay.
And then trying to connect STEM to art. I'm working on another one trying to connect STEM to sport. So I think everyday things that students are doing, video games, that connects to STEM. So I think they need to know that explicitly, and then they need to see people who are doing it, and they need to go to places where it becomes a possibility. But I think currently, given people like you who are highly influential, regardless of what role you're in, I think you've established yourself as a leader in Dayton. I think we just need funding tied to it. That's the key missing piece right now. So whether it's after school programming, you see that's drying up at the state and federal level, like we need funding for it. Extracurriculars in the summertime, summer camps and programs, we need funding for it. And then even equipment. I mean, there's a lot of research showing that students' exposure to toys actually helps with STEM. We're getting close to Christmas right now. So the students who can get a Lego set and get video games and get construction sets and get something just with STEM on it, those kids are at an advantage now over the others. The kids who once the season warms up, if they're not playing a winter sport and they could be playing a sport outside, they get an advantage over the other ones. Kids who have a tablet and a computer at home, they have an advantage. So I think just trying to level the playing field and then making sure they have talented teachers in front of them. I'm not saying this is all your responsibility, just as a community and society. I think that's the potential.
I think we also to add to that, because the thing that I tell people on a consistent basis, where I used to get asked a lot, why am I so focused on education as a mayor? And again, being the chair of the Mayor's Task Force on Education with the National League of Cities, I say it's real clear to me, because if I want to have good citizens, I got to help them grow them.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the process. So by the time you come out of high school, you should be able to go to college, go to the military, or go to the workforce, or either one of those combinations, which are good. Because some of the young people don't have to go. A lot of them don't have to accept going to college or not going to college as a failure coming out of high school, because there's so many things you can do through the educational process. You can go into the workforce, or you can go to the military, or you can do part-time, you can do reserve military. And even doing reserve military, you get points for your what you call it, your military GI Bill, for lack of another word, in terms of going through that whole process and getting your education free, not having to fight, with the financial burdens that are associated with that. Again, the athletics that you use, scholarships in those spaces, music, art, all those things. And I tell people a lot, I've been blessed, truly blessed to be a musician and an artist, and involved in mechanics and all those kind of things, and a little lightweight athlete. Okay, I can take care of myself on the golf course now. I used to be able to run baseball and track and all that. Those days have passed. You passed me by. Running and diving in the outfield and sliding in the home plate is not fun anymore. Okay, so got past that one up. But your book includes a lot of good things. I want you to sort of hold that up so we can get a good picture of that, and then talk about some of the kinds of things very briefly. I think we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left, but just talk very briefly about what caused you to want to do that, and what kind of personal pride do you feel in being able to do something of that nature?
Yeah, so there were a few things that caused me to want to do it. I mentioned like the things I took for granted when I was younger, just having family members who were positive. But again, we didn't talk about career, so I was trying to be more intentional with my nieces and nephew to say, this is what I do, but to do it at a level they will understand, which is, oh, you can draw. Did you realize you can take that drawing talent and bring it over into STEM or engineering? And then there's even a woman who was a part of my youth ministry group in Florida. As a teenager, she illustrated this book.
Okay.
So to me, to see something this powerful and beautiful on paper, that a teenager was able to do, I think sometimes we underestimate the potential and possibilities of kids, not even adults, kids. Right. So like you have to see what they can do and then hone those talents, So I wanted her to see how her artistic ability could be translated because no one ever did that for me. So I mentioned all the positives I did get, but I didn't know that I could do something like this as a kid. And then I wanted to make it fun too. So we talked about Lonnie Johnson in the book. Lonnie Johnson invented the Nerf gun Super Soaker. Those were toys I had access to. I had no idea that a black man invented those toys.
Right.
So also that representation and knowing the history being key. But I just think there's so much more that we can do, and this is just a starting point. So it's like those conversations we just had Thanksgiving, like did anyone mention their career? And if it wasn't there because maybe people were just having fun, like we happened to go to a VR, virtual reality, like game room on Sunday. And, this particular, one of the nieces who inspired it didn't go, but other nieces and the nephew did.
Okay.
And so even something that's fun like virtual reality, and the nephew loves video games, he even had a shirt on that said, I tried outside, the graphics weren't as good of quality, which is funny to me because he's justifying that's why kids still like playing video games. But I can now speak to him more easily about what I do because we play the VR game and because he's in the video games.
Yeah.
So I just think finding rooms so that.
Find those spaces.
Yeah, so that college becomes a possibility, the military becomes a possibility, the workforce. I'm a college advocate still, so I will say, if you had to choose between the military, direct entry into the workforce, or college, some of my best years were in college. Now, I still think best years are ahead of me, but some of the best years in terms of who I met, what I got exposure to. I worked at Toyota in Georgetown, Kentucky. I traveled the country when I was in graduate school doing research and presenting. I attended The Ohio State University, which a lot of people love that. Went to so many football games. I know that's a big deal because we could repeat as national champions. So it's just so much you can miss out on by not going to college. Students study abroad.
Those experiences.
Yeah, so I'm still a college first. If you get to choose between the three, even a semester or two of college, met my wife in college. So many things can come out of it.
Right.
Then if you are not a college type of student, then I would say try the military or direct entry to the workforce. But it's the socialization and out of classroom things you get.
Well, I think that's great. I think you're a great representative, not just for college. I think you're a great representative for this community, for the things you experienced in, as far as your elementary and your middle school and high school experiences that you had in those spaces. And I think, again, going back to the joy, because I had a tremendous amount of fun at college at the Central State University, doing the work that I was doing in those spaces. And then, of course, I decided to go to the military first and then get engaged and work when I came out of school, and then college, and then stumbled into education, and then now I really stumbled into government because it was not on my list of things to do. But finding ways to improve the quality of life for others is major, and I think you do a great job. And again, I know Dr. Johnson, whenever he has a chance to hear this and see this, he's going to be even more proud of the work that Sinclair has been able to create opportunities for more and more citizens that we have in the Dayton region. So again, time has flown by, as I knew it would be. Yeah. And, we almost think about doing the number 2. But thank you for being here. Really appreciate you and for the great work that you're doing. And for those who had the opportunity to listen and watch, thank you again to seeing another edition of In the Spotlight with Mayor Jeff Mims. All right, have a great day. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you. Okay.